Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome once again to another edition of the Steelers Hangover. It is the final one for the 2020 season that talks about a Pittsburgh Steelers football game as the Pittsburgh Steelers fell yesterday by the score of 48-37 to the Cleveland Browns. It started ugly. It didn't end as ugly, but the final score was still ugly, really ugly. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Tony Defeo, who's always right next to me here on the show, is not here this evening. He is taking care of some personal business. He will be back once again for the Steelers Retro Show, and he might even pop in a little bit later on in the show as he is delayed. But with that being said, thanks for everybody that joined us. Yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers season is now over. They ended the season with 12 wins and 5 losses, and that final loss being just terrible. So we talk about the hangover all the time, and when we talk about the essence of the show, we talk about the fact that you either have a situation where you are partying and you have that great hangover after indulging because of great news, having an awesome time. This is definitely not this. This is straight up gutter hangover. This is a headache that won't quit. This is what have I done? Or in our case, what have I watched? And I'm looking on the live chat. I'm glad to have everybody filtering in. If you are checking us out on Facebook or if you're checking us out on YouTube, as always, we do appreciate having you. And Manny Mendoza says, ugly is an understatement. This is definitely one of the worst losses in Steelers playoff history. You know, Manny, I've actually got to agree with you on that. And we will talk about some of the worst losses ever in Pittsburgh Steelers playoff history. This definitely has to be one of them, especially with the fact that, man, you had a team without a coaching staff. You had a team, they had a coaching staff, but not their regular coaching staff. You had a team without their Pro Bowl, left guard. You had one of their great linemen out. You had their young stud cornerback in Denzel Ward out, and they still beat you with most of your players back in place after resting the week before or being off because of injury or COVID. And the players that had the week off kind of didn't look good in this situation either. But nevertheless, it was absolutely horrendous, as NVR says. Valerie Ifkovich says, the loss broke my heart. Brad Jewett writes, hey, I'm sad. Yeah, it's okay to be sad. And look, BTSC is kind of a Steelers family, if you haven't figured that out by now. And hey, we're all in this together. We are fans. I'm a fan with a forum. That's pretty much all I consider myself to be. And I like to lead this up as one big support group after the Steelers do lose in this fashion. I'd like to say that I'm not surprised, but I'm not surprised. I did not expect it to go down that way. I really saw the Steelers winning this football game based on the way they played in the second half against Indianapolis. Dave Schofield, co-editor of BTSC, said, I just wasn't he just wasn't feeling it as far as all the offensive woes being fixed, and they haven't been fixed. And if you had a chance to listen to Jeff Hartman's Let's Ride audio-only show this morning on BTSC's Family of Podcast, you would hear him saying that, there's a lot of blame to go around. And it's really true. I mean, there's so many fingers that you could point out. We've definitely got to clean up from this and figure out how to go forward. But here's the great thing about a support group, being a BTSC family, being a Steeler family, we go on. And the only reason there's 115 of us in here 5 minutes into the show and counting and growing, we had over 1,000 on the post-game show yesterday. And that show started late. That show started close to midnight. But we had all these people on there. And it's because, win or lose, we're Steeler fans, and we crave Steeler news. We want to talk about it. And that's what last night was. For me, it kind of helped because it was therapeutic for the fact that I had two of my compadres here, Jeff Hartman and Dave Schofield, to talk to it about. And I had 1,000 of you, plus 1,000, to try to sort out my feelings about the Steelers and the way that season started. I think one of the reasons that Stangley Febo 22 and others feel that this is a sad time in Steeler Nation, it's because this team started out 11-0. And it felt really good. And you felt that this team could go to the Super Bowl. But even then, there was a lot of us, the national media, were saying it. But in the back of our mind is like, when is this going to stop? When is this party going to be shut down by the cops? And it kind of got shut down the week before. We had the warning against the Baltimore Ravens. And then against the Washington football team, the first loss came. And they kept coming. You know, there was one win in there, but basically the Steelers won one game in their last 6 chances. So that's kind of the things that hurt there. And that's kind of the things that you kind of saw it going this direction. I'm going to ask you guys all a question. And the question that I'm going to ask you here is, if they pulled that game out, would have you been confident going against Buffalo? I mean, I guess the manner in which they would have come back and won that game had they pulled off the almost impossible and done that, I mean, there would have been a lot of excitement, but would have there been doubt in the back of your mind? Yeah. Ariel Rosa says this, and I agree with this too. It feels worse than a Super Bowl loss for me. Yeah, because this team had so much promise. And then you become a team that just loses in the first weekend. And this is the first time we've had 6 teams go out in the first week of the tournament. And there's 8 left, and the Steelers are not one of them. So they're picking a 24th, and they're an also-ran kind of team. And everything that negative that has been said about them, well, it's kind of true at this point. So there's a lot of pieces to be picked up. But here's the thing. We've seen the Steelers pick up pieces. And I want to tell you right now, it is definitely okay to it is definitely okay to go ahead and doubt what's going on, because that's exactly what we got to do. I want to bring this up. I haven't read the whole thing, but because I don't multitask that well. Felicia Ballard is one of our greats on the live chat. She says, "Hey, Bad, love you, man. Well, we won the AFC North. We're the champs. If the Browns or Ravens don't end up with a Lombardi, then all they did was get into the same playoffs we did. Gotta start looking up." And you know what? I like that. I like the fact that we can look up. Andrew Wynn says this: "I'm sad, but I'm upset at coach." That's okay too, Andrew. It's okay to be upset at the coach. It's okay to be upset at Ben Roethlisberger. Me, I'm upset about the defense as well. A lot of people are pointing fingers at Marquise Pouncey. Mr. Marcus 37 says Pouncey plans to retire. Now, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to bring that up too. That is a report from Dale Lawley that we saw out there, and he ended up printing something else that he did not, and it wasn't a retraction. It was basically saying, no, I did not say that this is happening. This is something that I think might happen. A lot of people ran with it as something that was gospel. So, but it kind of sounds like that. And the reason it kind of feels that way is because that you had Ben and Pouncey on the sideline yesterday, and Bryan Terezio says, "I'm just heartbroken to think that this could be the last game for Ben and Pouncey." Yeah, Pouncey did not get a chance to win that ring, and Pouncey's injury in Super Bowl 45 is one of those reasons that they didn't win that ring. So, it's one of those things that when they were on the sideline in tears together yesterday, that was kind of heartbreaking because, we could criticize all we want the way they play. We could say they have no heart. These guys have heart. They just weren't able to pull this out. The way the game started with that on that first drive, it wasn't even a drive. It was the first possession, and next thing you know, no time off the clock, and Cleveland's up 7-0. I feel like they panicked They got off of their game and they never had a chance to return. It's nice to see that this team's able to score 37 points in pretty much a little less than a half, but I mean, a little more than a half, I guess, in this situation. But you got to remember this too, that the Browns allowed that to happen because they did not have to they didn't mind surrendering points in that situation because they did not have to clamp down. And when they realized that they had to clamp down, they did. There are some plays that you can go ahead and look at. When Andrew said that he's mad at coach, I get it, because there were 2 4th and 1s that a punt when you're down 28-0 and a punt when you're only down 12 and have a chance to get back in the game, being on the 48 and the 38 respectively, and you go ahead and punt the ball. That felt like punting the game away. But that was a coach that felt that that's what he had to do. Ultimately, the coaching staff, the organization knows more than we do, but it kind of felt, I'm second guessing that too. So there you go. Doc Holliday, another big fan of the show, says being T-bowed was worse, I think. Being T-bowed was tough because that was a different 12-4 team. That was a 12-4 team that had offense going, had defense going. They were only a year removed from being in the Super Bowl in that loss. So, I could see where that one ranks as well. Chris Ballin says, and if I get any of your names wrong, I do apologize. This was worse than Tebow. So a lot of people think that. So, I'm going to ask for that. I am way behind on the live chat, so I do apologize. There's so much to talk about. I will catch up to everything I can. If you do have a super chat, I will move that to the top of the line. If you do feel that you want to put something into the tip jar, we had so many people put money in the tip jar yesterday on the post-game show, and we do appreciate all of that, and we try to get to all of your questions. So if you have any questions, I would do my best. Here being solo, it's so much easier when Tony's here talking, and I could go ahead and look at everything. This was so tough, says Steeler Nation 412, and tougher loss than Steelers-Jags playoff game in 2017, and they lost 45-42. I think one of the reasons that this was so tough was the fact that you got down 28-0 and the team never gave themselves a chance to win or to play their game, and they got away from it. And I understand. So who are we putting the blame on? And that's the question. And it's one of the things that we'll look at in this show. Odessa Hall Menifee says, I was so disgusted, I stopped watching it. And you know what, Odessa, if I could have, I might have stopped watching it as well. Because it was one of the, I was so depressed. In fact, I took a little bit of flack for this, but I actually started laughing when it became 28-0 that early in the first quarter. I started laughing, and it wasn't, I wasn't laughing at the Steelers. I was just laughing at how this got out of hand so quickly and how I was so wrong on everything that was going to happen. And GS says, I had a feeling. I think all of us had a feeling. I agree with you. But you also had a feeling that that they can pull it out, and they do have the team that they can pull it out. Jay Hanna says, I have to say, never prepared for a Steelers loss at the first snap until last night. And yeah, you know what? It felt like that right away, especially the first interception as well. Carl E. Davis Jr., no relation, says, yes, rebuild the offensive line. I know I'm going to be all over the place on here because I really, once again, this is basically me gathering all of you for a therapy session as we try to push through this and we try to talk about it. And the offensive line is going to have to be rebuilt. Because I got to tell you what, we've heard the news that Pouncey is pondering retirement. Let's look at that offensive line. Villanueva, Big Al, does not have a contract. He's his contract just ran out. So Big Al, there's a lot of people that think that he might retire. I mean, there was thoughts that he might retire at the beginning of the season. Not at the beginning of this season, but thinking that this could possibly be his last year. You have Matt Filer. His contract has expired. And, Filer, that was a guy, a lot of people are pointing to that too. Why are you playing Filer when he was out all those weeks and Kevin Dotson was doing great? Kevin Dotson is the one constant you could go ahead and look at going forward, saying that he is probably the guy on that offensive line that you can trust the most right now and has the most upside. At center, we might lose Marquise Pouncey. Some people are calling for that. They actually want that to happen. I'd like to see what Pouncey does, but Pouncey was not right and has not been right for maybe a year or two, despite being a nine-year Pro Bowler. All of his healthy years, all of the years that he finished that he didn't lose a full season to, he was a Pro Bowler. That's how good he has been for the team, and I'd love to see him continue, but at the price he comes in at. But he's still under contract. So he's one of those guys that's under contract. David DeCastro is also under contract, signing that big deal right before the start of the season. I think DeCastro was hurt this year. Chuks Okorafor is another guy that you have. Zach Banner is a guy that you don't know whether you have or not. He went out in the first game of the season. I believe a lot in Zach Banner. I believe that Chuks Okorafor did some really good things as well. This year he did better than I actually thought. I did lose a live chat here, so I found I'm going to go ahead and do that in a second, a super chat. But Chuks played better, and Chuks is a guy that will be coming back as well. But look, everybody is going to say, even more after tonight, everybody's going to say Najee Harris. Got to bring in Najee Harris. Man, I would love to see Najee Harris on this team. I don't want to spend a first-round pick on him. I want to spend a first-round pick on a stud offensive lineman, and I really think that's what the Steelers are going to do. A lot of people are saying get your future quarterback. Don't know if you're going to get your future quarterback at number 24. It's a possibility, but it seems like those guys go in the top 12 picks. And sometimes, like a Josh Rosen, we've seen it before, like a Joey Harrington went number 3, Rosen went number 10. We saw Leinart go top 10. We've seen guys like that aren't the answer, and you still spend a high pick on them. So that's not always the answer either. People are calling for Ben to retire. I don't think Ben's going to retire. You lose. I mean, you might as well keep him around for one more season. It does delay the inevitable, but the thing is, with what he counts against the cap, that's $21 million, $21.5 million against the cap. So there's so many things to look at there. It's just not an easy fix where they are with the cap situation. But as far back to the offensive line, that's where you really need to focus on, as far as I'm concerned. Ryan O'Toole, great friend of the show, has been putting it all on himself to win games. The line has been awful. DeCastro was invisible in 2020. No line equals no run game as well. And we just talked about getting a Najee Harris. If you don't have a line, to Ryan's point, what are you going to do with a stud running back? How's a stud running back going to run without a line? And here's the thing. If you want to talk about the importance of an offensive line, look at Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. When that kid gets an offensive line, and I guarantee you, I would pay dollars to donuts, and I would guarantee you that with a number 3 pick, they're going to get, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but Penei from Oregon. He is a stud left tackle. He's the protector they need for Joe Burrow. You need to have protection. That line is long in the tooth and really needs some help. Ryan, $5. Thank you so much. Yeah, Ben has been putting a lot on himself to win games. He put it on his shoulders yesterday and kept throwing the ball in the wrong direction. That's That's exactly what it's going to be. Wes says Ben needs to retire, or be cut. I won't watch in 2021 if he's on the roster. Hate to lose you from watching, and that's your choice. I just think he's going to be on the roster. I think they're going to look when they kick that can down the road so often that they might have to keep him around for one more year. He already says he wants to come back. So the only thing about Ben is, and I will say this, don't let Ben control the narrative. I'm a big fan of Ben, and I thank him for everything he's done, but don't let him control who the offensive coordinator is. Don't let him control what happens as far as personnel. You control that. And you say, if you want to come back, these are the things that need to happen. Lee Pate, it seems like when the Steelers lose, national and social media are all over it with ridicule and laughter. When we win, nothing but critics. PS for L, Pittsburgh Steelers for life. Lee Pate, I agree with you. Thank you so much for the $4.99. I love the hat in your avatar there. That's great. Yeah. Look, this is a team that the national media wants to be all over. We're not darlings anymore. And that's fine, because when the Steelers have an us against the world mentality, they actually are so much better. So that's a thing to look at too. Super Steelers says this, cracks me up how fans soon forget what Ben has done for this organization. He deserves the right to decide when it's time to hang it up on his terms. And you know what, Super Steelers, I'm definitely not going to disagree with you on what he's done for the organization. I'm actually not ready to see him leave. I just don't want him to control the other things that will help the organization in the future after he leaves. I don't want his sticking around to hurt if you're going to keep a Randy Fichtner around just so Ben doesn't have to learn a new system. You know, I kind of take exception to that. And that's the thing, because I mean, it's just not Ben's team. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's kind of what, I mean, I have no problem him deciding when to hang it up. But somebody said this the other day, and they said, did Troy Polamalu get a chance to decide when to hang it up? And no, he did not get a say in on that. And there is still a lot of hard feelings on that, even with him going into the Hall of Fame. McDave Clenord says, keep Dotson, draft offensive tackle, center, and try to pick up a guard in free agency. You know, before anybody jumps in and says, with what money, you know, that's one thing that I hate more than anything, because with what money is they find money. Now, this team's not going to look the same. I kind of doubt that James Conner is going to be back. I really doubt that Bud Dupree is going to be back when he recovers from the injury. I mean, there's that possibility, but he takes a 1-year deal. But if that salary cap goes down, the Steelers are going to have a lot of holes. So that's one thing. That's another thing to look at. Steve G says, what does this say about Tomlin when a team without a coach on the sidelines can win? Now, at first glance, I agree completely with you on that. Dave Schofield brought something up yesterday. He's like, and he brought this up even before the game. He's like, you know what? When teams have all this time on Zoom and aren't on the playing field, they actually have so much of a better opportunity to thrive, because they're doing nothing but studying tendencies, studying everything on tape. Those guys the Browns did not take the week off just because their coaches weren't there. He had that game plan drilled in to all of the heads of the people involved, especially Alex Van Pelt, who called a really good game. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. If you are on Facebook or you're here with YouTube, please go ahead and just stick around. I'm going to take a quick break, which is about 5 seconds. If you are listening to us on any of our BTSC family of podcasts, please just go ahead and download show number 2 of the Steelers Hangover here on BTSC, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Steelers Hangover. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. It is a horrendous hangover indeed, as the Steelers have been eliminated from Lombardi competition for the 2020 season. After starting at 11-0, they lost yesterday after falling behind 28-0 to the Cleveland Browns. They could never get back, and that was just the theme of the game. And I hate to do this because I'm not a Cleveland Browns fan, but the Cleveland Browns played a really solid game. There are not many holes that I can go ahead and poke in the Cleveland Browns game plan, in the game, and everything that they did. Valerie says worst hangover ever. And yeah, I kind of agree with that. So, we were talking about it at the beginning of the show. What are some of the worst playoff losses in Pittsburgh Steelers history? A lot of people were talking about getting T-bowed, how awful that was. The Jacksonville game was brought up. And yesterday falls in line with that as well. I got to tell you, for me, I'm still looking at losing to the Patriots in 2001 at the AFC Championship game, losing at the AFC Championship game against the Denver Broncos after the 1997 season as well. I was at both of those games, and I got to tell you, those hurt. One game I was not at that I absolutely, I think, hurt the most for me was after the 1994 season. Lose the Gary Plummer game, the Alfred Popunu game, losing to the San Diego Chargers. That game to not go to the Super Bowl. That was absolute devastation. The good thing about that game, though, is they came back the next season and went to the Super Bowl. They were not victorious in that Super Bowl, but they did go, and they had every opportunity to win in that game too. But I don't consider that Super Bowl one of the worst Steelers losses either. Here we go, Wilson Pava. Don't mind missing Connor. Love, but no production. Don't mind missing Dupree long-term. Not sure he's as good as he's been recently. And Highsmith. So, I tell you what, Highsmith's going to be pretty good. I mean, he went off yesterday, and they suffered when Highsmith went off. Wilson, thanks so much for the $4.99. I do appreciate that. Too bad. Richard McKinney, I'm going to laugh at this because this is awesome, because this was really 1980s and 1990s. And we just talked about that 1995 team where they drafted a Nebraska offensive lineman, Brendan Stye, in the 3rd round after they took Mark Bruner in the 1st and Cordell Stewart in the 2nd. Too bad there isn't a 1980s Nebraska offensive lineman out there that needs to be drafted. Steelers always did well with those guys. Ariel Rosa says the thing, too, is that the Brown staff was professional and prepared like all teams, so they were prepared. They really were. I heard a lot of criticism that said that the Steelers were not prepared for this game. I think they were prepared. I actually think they were prepared, but I don't think they were prepared to go down in this game. And when you're a number 32 rushing team, like Marina Jane and Burt says, 32nd rushing team in the league, this is not Steeler football. When you're that team, you cannot come back. You are a one-dimensional team at that at that particular juncture. So there you go. You just can't. They could not come back. The Browns, when I say they let them back in that game, there was no urgency to stop the Steelers. But if it got down to them, push coming to shove and it getting closer, I would not be shocked if they were able to stop the Steelers. But the Steelers were not able to stop the Browns when they needed to stop them on defense, even in the second half. We are pointing a lot of fingers. I'm pointing fingers to the Steelers defense. You just hold them to a couple field goals instead of touchdowns in those situations. There's a chance to come back in this game too. Ezra, fantastic friend of the show, Hall of Famer in my mind. He has Hall of Fame on his avatar, 63 Dermani, love it. This is the worst playoff loss in my lifetime just because it's the Browns, all caps. Yeah, losing to the Browns, that hurts even more. And a lot of people don't have the problem with the Browns as much because they were so bad for so long. But it doesn't take long for me to start hating the Browns again, because I will never forget November 14th, 2019, and a guy swinging a helmet at another man's head. And that I will never forget the way that the fans reacted in that moment as well, in the Cleveland fans, that is. So I got to tell you, I've had hatred for that team. I can't stomach watching Baker Mayfield. I just can't stand the guy. I see his commercials. I get angry. My gosh, I'd rather watch Flo and Jamie from Progressive commercials than a Baker Mayfield Progressive commercial. And Flo and Jamie are so, and Myrna or Myra or whatever her name is, they're so nauseating. And Baker's even more nauseating to me. But man, he didn't have to throw the ball a lot last night. But when he did, he was right on. He was really good. I'm one of the guys that will forever say Baker sucks. He did not suck last night. And that's the thing about it. Toxic One North says, who's the new QB? I'm not trying to be smart. I don't think there's a new QB until 2022. I think number 7 and number 2 are your QBs in 2021. I'm not endorsing that. I just believe that's what is going to happen. DJ2, who, I mean, this is a perfect follow-up to that last one. Why keep Ben to go 10-6 in first round exit again? That's where you get into the whole dynamic of letting Ben go out on his own terms. And this is for Art too to decide. If Art Rooney decides that he's done with these early exits and it's time to blow this whole thing up, they might. But I don't know if this is a long rebuild. And I mean, you could say that I'm crazy at this point, but it might not be a long rebuild. You just got to catch lightning in the bottle with a quarterback. Somebody said earlier, does anybody remember 1983 to 2003 when between Bradshaw and Ben? Yeah, I do, because I remember those are actually the seasons that really got me into being a Steeler fan. And I remember the Cordell days, the O'Donnell days, even a Cliff Stout year. I remember the Rick Stroms coming in, the Scott Campbells. I remember the David Woodleys and, oh, God forbid, the Mark Malones. Oh, those years were tough. They really were, but there were some AFC championship games in there. There were some moments where this team had a chance to go all the way and didn't, and Ben did solidify that. So I do thank him for everything. But like I said, this is not an endorsement, but the economics of the game have changed, and with a salary cap and with COVID, gosh, I don't know what it's going to look like next year. So that's definitely something that we all need to think about when we're looking at what's going to happen this year, because conventional wisdom just doesn't fall into play when you're dealing with a salary cap. And hey, you might lose that salary cap genius in Omar Khan if another team is smart enough to make him their general manager. And that's another thing. And you got to look at the Kevin Colbert thing. Kevin Colbert has been amazing for this team. How much longer does he stick around before he retires? Do they risk losing Omar Khan to keep Kevin Colbert for another year of maybe 10-6? Stranger things have happened. You never know. we will just have to see how it all shakes out. Ezra says this. I wish I could have Ezra. I called off, probably got fired. I don't care. This hurts. This is, look, I talked about this yesterday. Man, ladies and gentlemen, we are fans of football because it's an escape. It's just like I go to the movies. When I watch a movie, just like if you watch a show that you love every week, or like I binged Cobra Kai for 10 hours on January 1st with my family, I got lost in their world. And I get to escape out of reality and watch that. And that's what being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan has been for me. And most years it's been better than, it's been great. It has been great to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I have had the exhilaration of celebrating so many times, AFC Championship win, Super Bowl wins, and the Steelers have done that more than almost anybody. I know the Patriots are up there as well as in the last 20 years, but the Steelers are a great franchise. So we take it more. I mean, do you realize if you are a Detroit Lions fan that you would be begging for a season like this and just to be in the playoffs and the history that we have, and that's the thing. But we do get lost in it, and that's why it does hurt when they lose, because for me, my holidays are over, because winter starts the day after the Steelers lose to end their season. And winter has definitely started. Winter is here. Gosh, man, I feel like I'm in Game of Thrones. Winter's coming. And well, no, it's here. So, but I do know this, 205 days until they play their first preseason game, hopefully. So, or go to training camp. But the nice thing about it is you're going to have BTSC throughout all of that, because we're not going anywhere. We know that you crave the Steelers. And the reason 223 people are on the live chat as we speak is because you love the Steelers so much and you love that escape that you want to hear about them, or you want to feel better about this, or you want to understand why they did the things that broke your heart yesterday. And they're probably thinking the same things. I still believe in my black and gold. I know all of you do as well, but there's things that you want to change and you'd like to see stop. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So there's really no complete answer. Like Ezra, I need Najee Harris to get through the summer. Man, I would love for you to have Najee Harris. I love all of us. I just don't see them doing it in the first round when the offensive lineman is so important. Now, if they go ahead and if they go ahead and do that, I'm not going to complain, but I really see them going offensive lineman. Ben Greenwood says, can we get you to change your background Browns colors? LOL. Yes, you can. Orange on one side, green on the other. This is my makeshift office right now, as I'm trying to do mine by myself. I've put up the drywall. November, we put up the walls. I'm struggling with the sanding, but there is going to be an office with white walls. I will definitely have it for next season. I'm hoping maybe around February if I can. COVID kind of hurt because the people that were helping me aren't around right now to help out. And I'm not exactly handy, but I'm proud of what I've done. This, I don't know how much longer you're going to have to endure the orange. There is some yellow down here. But this was originally my son's bedroom that he was born into. And now it's become a playroom and an office, but I will do my best. What if, Ben, let me ask you this. What if I go ahead and put up a couple terrible towels and and a couple of things. I almost put up I had this big draping Guns N' Roses, not like a poster, but like a cloth roses screen printed thing that I found at a yard sale for $2. I could put that behind me as well. But if I put up some terrible towels, maybe that'll work. I also have this that I had up, but I was afraid it was going to fall down. If I put this up, and this is actually right before the Super Bowl XL win. If I go ahead and put that up, maybe that'll disguise that orange a little bit. So I will work on that, I promise, Ben. But I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks. That's funny. I knew those walls were going to get me in trouble here. Mark Davison says BTSC still here, and he is definitely a BTSC guy. Yeah, that is Veron Haynes is also in that picture. That's the prayer right before the Super Bowl 40 game. There's so many there are so many things to look at. Adrian PDLE, bad. What happened to Highsmith? I did not watch. That was a bad catalyst for the D. I believe it was a high ankle sprain, and we'll find out a little bit more now. The information that we get from the Steelers might take a little while because of there's a possible COVID situation right now. That the facility might be shut down, so that might change exit interviews and the such. So we're going to see exactly what's going to happen as far as information. Had they won that game, oh my gosh, had they won that game yesterday, we might be in even more mourning right now as we find out some COVID information that might be afflicting this team, and we might not even find it out now. We might not even find out if somebody did test positive, but there's apparently a situation. Wouldn't that have been horrible to have survived that game in epic fashion and turn around and have it snapped away from them and taken away from them with a bunch of people out, if that is the case? I'm not sure. Richard McKinney says, Ezra, I would prefer a 6'6", 350-pound run blocker. I got to tell you, there's guys out there. There are definitely guys out there. Look, I don't think we've seen the last of David DeCastro. I think he was hurt a good bit of this season. So I think you still have some life left with DeCastro there. I think Kevin Dotson is your guy at guard. He is your left guard. He could be a 10-year guy. I think he's that good. Chukwuekorfor, I believe more in Chukwuekorfor than I ever have. He's very serviceable. If you can go ahead, I don't think Filer's going to be back. I don't think he's done anything to warrant a second contract. You might see a guy that bet on himself last year in Zach Banner. You might see him coming back after he heals for a 1-year prove-it deal. He did a 1-year prove-it deal last year, and oh man, that really stunk. He went out in the first week of the season, but I think he could definitely be a guy next year that you could rely on. But I think you definitely need to get a rookie and a big guy like an Alex Leatherwood, a guy like that they've been talking about. Man, I think you address offensive line. I think if you look at running back, there are some guys, and I have trouble pronouncing his name. Etienne, Etienne from Clemson. I think he could be available in the second round. There's a kid from North Carolina that could be available in the second round. There's some players, and when you say, no, you can't get anybody in the second round. Derrick Henry. Jesse George mentions Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was a second-round pick. Last year, J.K. Dobbins and Jonathan Taylor were second-round picks. So there's guys that you can get in the second round. Le'Veon Bell, the Juice, was a second-round pick. So there's a guy you can get in the second round. I don't know. It would be hard for me to see them getting a quarterback this year. I still would hold out that I would love to see a guy like Sam Darnold too. I just don't think that's going to happen, just because of the salary cap and what you're looking at. I mean, but that could happen in a trade too. It just depends what they'd be looking at. But one thing that I always know with the Pittsburgh Steelers is they do such a great job of finding money in the couch cushions. I mean, Kevin Colbert and Omar Khan do that better than anybody. And if they could go ahead and find some money, you would be surprised. Nobody thought that they were going to some guys like Ebron and Wisniewski, even though they didn't get a chance to keep Wisniewski. Nobody thought they'd be able to make deals, and they did, and they were active in free agency. Let's take a look at some super chats here. Let me try to get it up here. Let me move down here. It is Stangley Febo 22, gives us $4.99. Stangley Febo, thank you so much. We need to go OT round 1 and running back round 2. Yeah, that's a possibility, and I really think that the offensive tackles are pretty deep here. So there you go. Eric Askew. Well, last night was depressing. We should all be proud of the adversity the Steelers had to endure with how much their schedule got messed with. Eric Askew, $5. Thank you so much. Yes. And that's something that I have not talked about. But I got to tell you, when things started to go wrong was when things beyond their control started to happen. And they did – that schedule was moved around so much, and so much was done to give other teams opportunities to survive. When you turn around and look, in the Denver Broncos weren't allowed to couldn't have any of their quarterbacks out there and weren't extended the same thing. It just seemed like the Steelers had so much going against them, and hey, they weathered a lot of storms. In the end, they were beat up by two major injuries. Actually, no, let me say that. 3 major season-ending knee injuries. Zach Banner's one of them. Of course, Devin Bush and Bud Dupree. And we might have seen the last of Bud Dupree, and which stinks because Bud was a very good player for us. I'd love to see him come back. I just don't know if it's possible. And it probably isn't, but hey, you never know what we're going to be talking about. And that's the great thing. You know, we will be here each and every day on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and we're going to be here in the family of podcasts too, with offerings, new offerings every single day. You're still going to have a lot to listen to. We're going to continue with the YouTube. We're going to continue to have offerings on the audio-only side as well. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of information, and you're going to find it here first. And Tyler W. says, Bryan, I hate to hear you so downcast, but we will bounce back, and these guys next year will take nothing for granted. You know what? I appreciate that. Thank you, Tyler. But you know what? I don't feel downcast. I'm trying to get through talking without a break for almost 49 straight minutes since Tony's not with me today. But, you know, it's it is tough because that loss is means that the season's over, and it does hurt. But you know what? I feel good, and I'm glad you said that, because I feel good because I believe in this team. And like I said, you know, I said this yesterday. You cut me, it looks like I bleed red, but that's actually black and gold. And guess what's in my blood? Plenty of iron. And that's what happens in the Steel City, my friend. I'm a Western Pennsylvania kid, bred and born. Dennis Timmons helps me out here. It is not supposed to be pronounced Etienne. It is a French name, Etienne, and it is pronounced Etienne. Best was to describe it with phonics on a computer. Thank you, Dennis. I tell you what, I mean, I could watch Clemson games, and I still am not picking up, like a lot of people will call him, will still call Randy Lane Fichtner when it's actually Fichtner. Ryan O'Toole says, loving the show. Ezra says Tony is hurting too. Tony's working. and he's taking care of some business. He was hoping to get on, but he's stuck at work. So I got to tell you, doing this show without Tony for me is tough because, man, I lean on him because I love his opinion so much too, and he has a great way of expressing it as well. And Tony and I are very similar in the way we think about the Steelers. We're not X's and O's guys. We're pop culture Steeler guys. DJ2 says, time to take a week off from this team, start watching film, and get ready for the draft. Need any draft support for BTSC bad? I tell you what, DJ2, feel free to get a hold of me, or you can get a hold of Jeff or Dave as well. You can, in the articles, you can get email addresses for us and contact us. Look, there's a guy here in the live chat that 6 months ago was just a fan in the live chat like all of you. His name is Mark Davison, and now he's hosting his own show with Matty Peverell, Touchdown Under. So, that's a thing that could happen. So if you're ever interested in writing, write stuff up, present it to us. That's something we could look at. And there might be some podcast opportunities that come out of that as well. So like I said, we're all fans. I'm just lucky to have that forum. So if you're good with the draft, if you're good with anything Steelers and you want to submit it, feel free. You never know when things are going to open up, and it should be fun. Big Bro Sco. Here's my buddy there, Big Bro Sco. I should have brought Big Bro Sco on the show to help drown my sorrows here. He is correcting me. He said no, that would be Touchdown Under. But I got to be careful because when I do my Australian impressions and my dialects, it's not good, and I cannot do impressions. I thought I could. Ariel says, it sucks very, very bad, but imagine being a fan of teams like the Browns who literally won their Super Bowl. Yeah, and I get it. And we were talking about teams that like the Detroit Lions that would have killed to be here. Big Brosco is like, yes, you should have. Well, Big Bro, there's 5 minutes in the show. Jump on. So, anyways, I got to tell you, this is going to be this isn't our last hangover. We could possibly change the name like we did last year, but it's going to be the same format where we change it to Steelers Q&A. No matter what it is, this is our YouTube show that we do every Monday. Tony and I are on here. We have a lot of fun with it. And one of our big things is to be the patriarchs of our Monday night Steeler family. And that's the most important thing, to have a family. I've got 200 people in the live chat that I love going to Steeler War with. And when I say Steeler War, I love going through all of this with you because we've got high notes when we win those games, and it's so awesome. And when we draft, as Ezra, I'm going to just say this for Ezra, when we draft Najee Harris in the first round of the 2021 draft, we can celebrate all that together. Or when we draft that offensive tackle, or if we draft a guy that we've never heard of and we're like, what happened? Who in the world is Jermaine Stevens? I've never heard of Artie Burns. Okay, when that happens, all right, we're in it together. And I really love to be I really love to have a Steeler family to go through all this with. And it's funny when we get somebody from the Broncos on here, or a Ravens fan or a Browns fan, as long as they treat us with respect, man, you know what we do? We welcome them in with open arms. But the minute they dog one of me or Tony, you guys are like jackals. You're all over them because we're a family together. We go through this together. And we cannot do these shows without each and every one of you. I could go ahead and read all these names that have commented. There's some names that have not commented. And there's some names that I'll never know their names. And the reason I'll never know their names is because they're listening on the family of podcasts. They're listening and in their car on on Tuesday or Wednesday, but they're listening every single day. And that's what makes us a community. And we thank you. We can't do this show without you downloading or you tuning in on Facebook or you tuning in on YouTube and you giving us questions and giving us stuff to think about. You give us stuff to think about too. You call me out when I'm wrong, and I have no problem because I'm the one guy. There might be more, but I'm one guy that covers the Pittsburgh Steelers in any fashion that will admit to you I'm wrong a lot. You know why I'm wrong? I'm just a fan with my own opinions. I just have this forum. But like I said, I can't do it without you guys and you ladies. I cherish everybody in this live chat, and I cherish everybody here. And you know what else I cherish? Cherish my Pittsburgh Steelers, win or lose. And I got to tell you, they lost. I'm disappointed. They're disappointed. And that's the bottom line of the whole thing. But guess what? We're going to wake up tomorrow, and we're going to be like Dwayne Williams says, black and gold for life. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So I got to tell you, thank you so much. I feel better. And Mark Davison is I'm going to have him help me out here on the live chat. Since Tony's not here, I'll put it up on the screen, but I'll also talk over it. Maybe I'll talk in his accent. But for Tony Defeo, who is not here, for all of you in the live chat, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis, and to quote the great and late Rowdy Roddy Piper, just when you think you've got all the answers, Mark, help me out with that. There it is. We keep changing the questions. Bye, friends. We'll see you next time. Win or lose, go Steelers.